Marlo, what's up, man?
They're just like, no, just pay it forward. That's what we do on the water.
Hey, Marlo, can you hear me?
Hey, Mike. Yeah, here.
Hey, I'm glad I was going to call you and talk to you a little bit about your property. What I would tell you is we'll go through the video and I'll double check your budget, but don't listen to anyone else when it comes to the budget. You're going to have to make your own. It's kind of the number one, I would say our number one competitive advantage that we learn in this group is how to get the work done cheaper. Because when you know how to do a house for 45 and others think it's 55 or pay 55, then that's 10K more that you can offer that others can't offer. And that's how you get deals. But then the key is you got to be able to do it for the 45. So you got to get very creative in understanding how to cut cost. And I've actually even thought about this as like a really big thing that I want to start doing in the group is kind of getting focused on how we can save money. And, we can do a lot of that just roughly throughout the group, because I think there's in a higher level group, we're doing a lot of it, but there's a lot of you guys in this group that are flipping houses and could use that. So I think it would be nice just in our group, our Facebook group, to just go ahead and be like, hey, what can we do to save, right? And let's just keep sharing a lot of ideas, because every time you're able to do something cheaper and cut costs, like it just compounds your competitive advantage. It makes you like way better and smarter than most, and it gives you the ability to make money where others can't make money, because it's the number one reason. It's probably my number one advantage. And honestly, every house flipper who's doing this successfully, like when I've run my numbers against theirs, we're all in the same ballpark. It's only the people, and this is 99% of the public, by the way, it's only the 99% who's overpaying that will tell you that number doesn't work. But you got to, like, a big first thing you have to figure out if you want to really have good deal flow and the ability to make money in this business is just how do you do it on the cheap, right? How do we get creative on the cost? And so that'll start with you being the leader of the numbers. So I'll get you a budget back and I'll look over it. And then your job's going to be like, you're going to have to apply a lot of discipline of not paying more, even though multiple people tell you that you're crazy. No, you can't do it for that. No one's going to make money. Your job is, from this point on in the mastermind, is to get a good understanding of the budget, go deep into it, understand what the work is, how long it takes. Every job you do and every time you pay money out for every job on that list, your job is to make sure you're getting it done as cheaply as possible. You're getting the materials at the best cost, just all the way across, right? Because this is not just an opportunity for you to get something done more affordably, but it's also a really big learning opportunity. Some of the biggest value that you gain being in this program would be when you start flipping your house and you have the ability to kind of mastermind around the decisions that you have to make throughout the renovation, which is all the time, by the way, right? I mean, it's like every day you'll be making a decision. So, you think about it, if there's you'll be making many decisions every day. If you think about the opportunity that, say, in a rehab, there's, 200 decisions you need to make, being able to make most of those decisions much better will make a huge difference. I mean, when someone was like, it's 65, well, if you do 65, you're not going to make any money on that house. So, 65 can't be on the table. And, I would hope that the hard money lender wouldn't lend to you at 65, because you won't really have a lot of spread if that's the case. If you sell it for 160, and what you don't want to do is overspend and overprice it. That's a very common mistake that a lot of renovators make, is they go over budget and then think, well, because I went over budget, I bet I can get a little more because I feel like my house is nicer. And we've seen the houses people are doing in that neighborhood. They're as nice as they get. And you better believe they're not spending 70K on those houses or 65K. They're spending the number they have to spend, because you can look and see what they bought them for, and they're not buying them for 20, 30,000 bucks. They're buying them for like 50 to 70,000 in that neighborhood pretty commonly. So you got to keep that for a row home. It's in pretty nice condition like yours. 45, 50, I would go for 45. And then the end of the day, if you ended up at 50, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But if you shoot for 50, it's easy to turn into 55 or 60. And that's probably going to, really diminish your profits a lot. So yeah, man, I'll take a look and I'll go through that budget on my time and just, send it back to you. But what we get an opportunity to do is, I would say, come to the calls. Like, every time you have decisions, just ask in the group. There's a lot of people in the group who do know and have been through this. I know Samira's been through a lot of it. She's on her journey of figuring out the pricing and fighting on some stuff, and some stuff she still has to learn. There's some stuff she's already learned she might be able to share with you. Gloria you're going to be going down that same journey. So Gloria, this is for you also. And Kate, whenever you get a house, and everyone else that's on the call, when you guys get homes, like, these are the things that you'll really want to do, because this is the difference maker. This is the difference between being a house flipper or not being a house flipper. And Again, I'm not telling you that you're going to learn this overnight and it's going to be an instant, just, use my 3-step ninja process and you'll just instantly, it's a battle, right? You just battle and battle until you get it right. And eventually, though, however, you get it really right and you start to make some real money, because that is the difference. Like, that gets you in the top 1-2% of house flippers, who are, most of those are the successful ones who are making money. That's one thing that I would say is definitely a common denominator, is good house flippers know how to control their costs and know how to get things done affordably. Now, the pricing that I'm giving you isn't even the cheapest pricing. I have other students and I've found other renovators who are getting it done even 5-10K cheaper than me. And they're just what I call like super cheapskates. And I've decided I could easily get to their pricing, but I look at the time they put into being a super cheapskate and I realize, okay, my number is like a little above theirs. So it gives me a little more breathing room, not to have to do every single thing and not to be like, crazy about it. So, but when you get past that, then you're getting into that realm of where most people are, but it's not because, that's just the standard of the industry. It's because most people are fairly lazy about this whole renovation piece. They love to kind of just give it away and say, hey, just do it for me. Can you knock that out for me? Oh, here's 55K. You handle it. The issue with paying like a GC 55, Marlo, is that I don't know any GC that ever gets done on time and on budget. And if you're already paying 10K more because you're using a GC, you can't really afford for them to take too long and then ask for more money, which is pretty much guaranteed is going to happen, in my opinion. I wish I could find one who doesn't do that. I've been doing this a long time, and I've tried to work with GCs more than one time in my life. Like my partner, when we split up, for years we had tried GCs because he's like, why don't we just get GCs to do this so we can, focus on buying deals? And so he asked me that every year or two, and I tried it every year or two, and it just never worked. When I left, he decided to go and give it a try for himself, and it did not turn out well. Last time I talked to him, he told me he lost about $150,000 working with GCs. And just like he kind of went all in with this one GC who said he could handle all his rehabs and, kind of would be almost like a strategic partner for him. And it just didn't work out, which, by the way, is the same experience that I had, 5 or 6 times I tried it in my life. And I think I'm pretty smart about this. I think if anyone could hack this, I could. But, what I realized this about 2 years ago when I started when I was really traveling the country and watching other successful renovators, I met no successful renovators who were using GCs. Every single really highly successful renovator essentially was their own GC and had a deep understanding of construction. And they knew how to kind of bring people together, manage them. And then eventually they would obviously offload that work to like a project manager or an assistant, someone. But ultimately, they at any point could jump in and handle it because they knew what was going on. Because this is one of your biggest money expenditures, is the work that you do in a house. So you can't really trust that to someone else until you have an deep understanding of it and you know what's what. Because if you don't know what's what, then they're going to tell you what's what, and they're not going to tell you things that are in favor of you getting it done affordably, and quickly. They're going to tell you all kind of other stuff. Even the 7-day flip, people always ask like why we did it. And I mean, we did it because me and my project manager, he was taking like 2 months to do a 45 or 50K renovation. And I felt like that was too long. And he's like, look, man, you think everything can go quicker and it can go. And I'm like, I know it can go quicker. It's just a manpower issue. And so eventually we settled the argument by saying, like, I showed him, I think it's called Extreme Home Renovations. This guy, Ty Pennington, they like rehabbed the whole house in like 5 days while somebody went to Disney World, and they put like 200 people in the house or 150 people in there, and they just renovated the whole house, like a full scale renovation. I mean, like not like, like 100K renovation in like 5 days, but it was like 150 people doing it. So I realized it's just a manpower issue. So that's why we did that, because even this is like 2 years ago we did it. And I don't even know if it was 2 years or a year and a half, but we did it because like even after all these years, like there's limiting beliefs that'll creep in. And my project manager was starting to have those limiting beliefs, and he wouldn't just listen to what I was saying. So sometimes we have to do some exercises. It isn't always easy to just tell someone something. Sometimes we have to show and do. And that's what me and him did. We showed him, and he did it with me. And we ended up doing a 45K renovation in 7 days. And this is a full renovation. We added a bath. There was a lot to it, and it all went very quickly and very well. Surprisingly, we thought it wouldn't happen in 7 days, but it did. We'd have been totally happy. See, for me, from an owner standpoint, as a leader standpoint, I was just thinking if we do it in 14 days, then what I've done is I've shifted his thinking, right? I've reversed his thought process of thinking that this is always going to be 2 months. I was only trying to get it to 4 or 5 weeks, not doing it in 7 days, obviously. But when he realized it could be done in 7 days, now he never has an excuse. He's always like, yeah, we just need to get more people over. You know what? Maybe I can take people from here. We can kind of bunch them together. So he knows that's possible now. He also knows that, like, you know, it's not anytime we don't get what we want, it's because we didn't put the effort into it that we need to. And that's pretty much the science behind all this. So if you need to get something done for 45K, totally can happen, by the way. And I'll get you a budget that proves that. And maybe it's more than 45, Marlo, when I go through it, but it's not, I know it's not 65, and you can't afford to spend 55 to 65 on it. It has to be the number you came up with. Cause even that number was, you know, that was a little bit higher than what we were recommending to pay. So you already went in like at a 5K deficit. So it's really even more important that you kind of nail the work, but it's going to require you just not standing for anything but that. Like, you either get what you want, or you gotta be stubborn. If you're not naturally a stubborn person, then, you know, just have some affirmations every day and say, man, I'm going to every day fight hard to save money and, you know, keep money that would have normally leaked out of the project.
Okay, sounds good. One other question, Mike.
Sure.
I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's actually a good thing, but the hard money lenders seems pretty hands-on with everything. And that's what we kind of give, like that 50 to 65K estimate. Instead, he wants like contracts with contractors, make sure like, everything is done the right way.
Who is the hard money lender?
Pimlico Capital.
Oh, Pimlico. So
Group.
what do they want? They want
Pimlico Group. It sounds like he's like just very hands-on with everything. He's saying like he wants like you know, to have like contracts with contractors, everything done the right way. That's why he was
contracts
estimating
with
like
contractors.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't. So it sounds like he's actually not really. It's a good thing. It sounds like a bad thing, to be honest with you. It sounds like he's going to hinder you getting the house done and making money. Because what if you want to hire a guy under you that works under you, that's a carpenter who can work for $200 a day and can bang all this stuff out and save you money? Like, if you don't have a contractor's license, you don't have to have a guy with a contractor's license to do that.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Honestly, so, I mean, you just want to have a talk with him, because ultimately, if he's controlling what you're doing, what I would tell him is the same thing I told Steven Cinnamon, is like, tell him that I'm managing the property with you. So say, look, I have a certain way I'm learning. Mike's going to be co-managing it with me, like, you know, senior managing it with me. So that way, I prefer to like do it the way that he's done. And I get you guys like want it done a certain way, but like, look, this is the key to me not spending 65. I spend 65, I'm not going to make any money. This isn't going to be a profitable business model.
Okay.
Because the math's just not there if you spend 65. Right. The thing is, remember, Pimlico, they might be hands-on, but they're not professional renovators. They never have been. And just because they've lent money to people who do something, it's kind of like me saying, well, I used to coach basketball, so like totally I should be in the NBA. Like, no, actually, on the sideline, you might never pick the basketball up. Right. I mean, that's kind of, they're not even coaches, by the way. They're legitimately like not even active rehabbers. So just the fact that they've seen people rehab doesn't mean they actually know what's going on. It doesn't mean the people they're lending to are actually doing a really good job. Remember, we're not talking about like what most people are doing. We're talking about the best way to do this. I spend like every day of my life finding what I call the most profitable practice. Right? There's the best practices you hear a lot. The most profitable practices is what I'm teaching you. And not like, I don't know, some lenders will be like, oh, well, my guys do it this way. And I'm like, fantastic. Like, you know, but don't you tell me your guys' houses sit on the market and they don't sell quickly and you know, that most of them aren't making any money. And, you know, but this is how it's done when you make money. And I didn't invent this. Again, this was me studying the market and seeing what other people were doing. So, I mean, I did figure a lot of it out over 700 flips, but then I spent 2 years of my life traveling and seeing, was there things that could be done differently and better that other people were doing? And surprisingly, there was a handful of things I was doing that were very consistent among the top flippers out there. And that managing yourself and having a deep understanding is something that's going to be, if you don't do that, then again, the question I would ask to them is like, okay, if you force me to do it a certain way and that causes me to lose money, then I'm assuming you guys are expecting me to take a loss and pay that money, right? So I would just say I have a co-manager, Michael Green, the guy's done like 1,100 flips, and he's going to be managing this with me, which is true, by the way, because you can come to me and ask me questions and I'm going to help you. So if you frame it that way versus saying I have a coach feels like, you know, most times the coaches, like most of the coaches around here aren't that great. They're not even actively in the game, essentially. But if you have me helping you and telling you exactly what to do, how to do, this is like right out of my playbook of what I do. Like when I jump off this call, I'm going to be calling my project manager, and the same stuff I'm teaching you is what we're doing every day. And it's what works. It's, you know, taken a lot of years of doing it wrong to figure this out. So this is definitely like what I would call like next level stuff that, you know, like I'm teaching you the same stuff I teach to my higher level group, guys that are doing 20 houses a year already. And they're trying to figure out why they can't get to like 30 and 40 or doubling their income. And that's a big part of this is what we're teaching you is actually the high level process. So sometimes it is a little early to teach this, but you got a house. So you got to, you know, it makes sense to figure it out. You also paid $5K more than you should have. So that's going to put you at a little bit of a deficit. So you're going to have to make that up by not making bad choices, right? Every little bad choice is going to cost you money. So yes, if they want to be hands-on, you just let them know, like, I'm going to self-manage. I got Mike co-managing with me. Yes, I might get, you know, for the important stuff, I'm probably going to get, you know, obviously going to get licensed people. But if you need a carpenter, like you're just going to way overpay. And that probably makes sense why they're at 65. Like if you're trying to find carpenters that have MHIC licenses, like I can't even tell you the last person I've hired that has an MHIC license as a carpenter, because like, why would you care? You don't need an MHIC license to do trim and doors and all that. You can, because as the owner, you can be your own contractor and hire people. So, you know, I mean, that's just my opinion. I know if I get someone in, it has licenses, has workman's comp, has a beautiful truck, and, you know, the price is going to be double, and I can't afford that and keep my competitive edge. So it's something to consider. If you'd like, you know, if it comes down to it, you really like me to have a discussion with them, I wouldn't mind, because I know they are a pretty decent group. But if I am, you know, if we're going to be referring people to them long term, they're going to have to be able to, you know, they can't tell like students to do it a different way. Because I feel like someone else said that to another student. I can't remember if it was Nick or someone else, but I got on the phone with the hard money lender, and he's like, "No, we're all good, man. I hear what you're saying. You know what you're doing." I just, you know, he's like, actually he told me, he's like, I heard coach, and he's like, honestly, these other coaches I've seen out there, it actually scared me, because most of them had actually never flipped a house, and they're coaching people, and the stuff they're coaching to do is not really right. And this guy had flipped a lot of houses. Usually it was Nick's lender. That's why I asked, because I thought maybe it was the same lender, because he was very involved too. But the thing about him is he actually had flipped like 100 houses. So he was not like talking from a place of like, I've watched people do it. He's like talking from a place of I've done it. But even he, when I got on the phone, was like, dude, like, yeah, I stopped doing it because it was a nightmare. I couldn't control the contractors. And I talked a little bit about how I was doing things and how I was doing things a little differently. And he's like, that makes a lot of sense. And he's like, I get it. So yeah, I'm okay, man. You know your stuff. He's like, yeah, I'll let him just do it the way you want. But I just want to make, because they're really just trying to make sure you'll get it done. Right. So if it takes me kind of getting on the phone and be like, look, you know, we're going to be creative. We can't just follow like a licensed contractor and give a bunch of money to them, because that costs money. Plus it also puts you at huge risk for them running off with your money, because there's not many licensed contractors are going to take and be a GC and be like, yeah, I'll do the work. Just pay me when I'm done. Like they've really not many of them out there. They're going to want you to give them like, you know, 10 grand up front. And then you get in this place where they always have your money up front. So when you call them, like, right, Samira, anyone who's been dealt with this probably can tell you, when someone has your money, they don't respond very well. They kind of just do their own thing. And they're like, you know what, you deal with it, because I have your money, I'm in control. But when you owe them money, all of a sudden you have a little bit of a leverage. And that's the position we have to stay in as house flippers, because I'll tell you, every time I've had an awful problem, somehow I let people get ahead of me. I wasn't paying attention. They got a little ahead of me. It's almost like when my project manager calls, says, we're having a major problem with this guy. I'm like, we paid him too much. He's like, no, I don't think so. I'm like, Steve, we never have these problems until we pay too much. So let me look at it. He comes back an hour later. He's like, yeah, I don't know how he did it, but yeah, he got ahead of us a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, that's when it happens, by the way. Because when they know they're ahead of us, then they're kind of like, you know, we're basically begging them to come do work that they've already been paid for. So they always look at it, contractors look at it like this, like, I need to get paid this week, and they will go to wherever they get paid this week. If you've already paid them money in advance, then you don't represent getting paid this week. You represent like something they owe. So you're kind of like a debt versus money to eat. They're always going to chase the money to eat, and they're always going to push off the debt, essentially. So this is why we don't want to get in debt to contractors and let them have our money. So I can just tell you that's how my partner did like 800 flips with me before I left him on his own a couple years ago, and he got beat for 150K. And he's a smart dude, man. He ran a lot of businesses. So I think that like even he can't hack the code of giving money up front and getting out of line like that. Even he was able to be taken advantage of. And he's not a dummy by any means. I mean, he has a lot of experience and, you know, a lot going on. I mean, I guess he was a little bit of a dummy for not following what we had already, you know, not learning the lesson that we had already learned 14 times. But, it's like, I'm not judging because I'm not one to say that I don't make the same mistake over and over. My job as your coach here is just to keep bringing light to it, right? If I see it from the outside, I got to bring light to it for you so that when you're going to keep trying to do it, and I'm just going to be like, hey, guy, I just got to keep telling you, because you know what? That's what my coach does for me, and that's why he's so invaluable. Because as I'm in my own space, and this is what's kind of our weakness is by ourselves. When we're just by ourselves, we can literally look at something and know it's the wrong thing to do and do it. Like, if I'm with someone else, like a group of people that are trying to eat healthy, like, and they're all like, don't eat that cake. I'd be like, okay, you're right. That's not part of the diet. But I'm by myself and there's a cake sitting on the table. I don't know what might happen. The cake might strategically disappear into my stomach, the best hiding place in the world. So, I mean, this is kind of like, having this support is big, and accepting this support is really big. It'll allow you to really kind of push yourself past your own abilities, right? We always have to have someone help stretch us by challenging us to get farther and go farther with this. And this is part of what's going on. So Samira's doing a great job of stretching right now. She's been working really hard and dealing with a lot of like ups and downs, and some things going well, some things not going so well. And she's stretching right now, and that's all and the more you stretch yourself, like when she does this the next time, it gets easier. Everything gets easier the more you do it, because like what your limitation today is very different tomorrow once you've stretched some. So it's all about stretching past our own stuff. When I did the training that I did for 6 months, the leadership training, they stretched me beyond belief, like farther than I was even comfortable. I didn't know I could get overwhelmed. I'd never been overwhelmed before until they had me like calling people 1 o'clock in the morning, like telling them how I feel. I was like, holy shit, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, yeah, you're committed to change. I'm like, these people think I'm fucking nuts. And they did think I was nuts. They're like, do it anyhow. And they were stretching me because I'm like 2 in the morning. I'm like doing work, and like, I'm okay to work till 10 at night, but like 2 in the morning is like, that's Gary Vee stuff. But you know what? Now I work till like 6 or 7 if I have to, if I need something done. And I'm like, okay, it ain't even a big deal. It's a light day because I stretched to, I've actually worked 20-hour workday before. Me and Delonte was doing it like maybe once a month for a while. We were just trying just to test our boundaries and really take us to the next level. Like me and him would start at like 6 in the morning and end at 12 at night, and just all day, just focus and just knock out. I mean, we would get done in a day what often would take a week to do. It was really crazy experiment. A coach of mine had suggested that we should try it just to see what it's like to get like a ton done. And, because most days we're only doing really 3 or 4 hours worth of focus work. And that 20-hour day was just complete focus the whole time. Like we were only doing things that would move the needle. We weren't really doing day-to-day activities. It was just big picture planning. So we tried to do it once a month. We did it for a while, and it was pretty insightful thing to do, right? Just to test my own limits of what's possible for me. Because whenever we think we're overwhelmed or we think things are harder than we think, it just means that, we're just, that's our limitations. So we got to bust through them a little bit. So yes, if you think there's a call necessary, let me jump in and be part of that. I would be okay with that. And, I would just want you to have the freedom to not be like pigeonholed into a way of doing things that I can't really help you that much, because like I said, I can't even figure out how to get my own partner not to get beat for 150K when done incorrectly. So a lot of times people ask me, Mike, how do you fix this problem I'm in? Well, if you've gotten into a problem, some things can't really be easily fixed. There's no really good way of fixing a problem that should have never been in the first place. The key is a lot of times we have to be proactive and not get into those situations, because there are some situations in house flipping that aren't really, there's no real good outcome. Essentially, there's a best way to handle it, but it's still going to suck, and you're just going to make it suck less. But there's no great outcome sometimes. So when you get into situations there's no great outcome, then the only way to handle those is to be proactively avoiding them, like the plague, right? Just say, okay, wow, if I give a bunch of money to someone, they're probably going to be a problem. So just know that, right? Know that as you're working through it.
Mm-hmm. All right, sounds good. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that.
Okay. All right, let me know if you need any feedback or help on that. Anybody else got any questions I can help with? Or actually, let's see what's on the Facebook group real quick. See if we can. What the heck is that? Credit card processor 2019. Let me put that in. One second. Let me just pull it out real quick. Did anyone on the call send in questions? Oh, you know what? I seen one sent in. There was like a property. No, I don't know. Did anyone actually send in questions or a property review or anything?
Hey, Mike, it's Kate.
Hey, Kate.
I had left questions on Thursday because I couldn't make Thursday's call about what to ask a broker, and also some driving for dollars questions that you said you'd get to on the call.
I did, and it should be, if you go to the Q&A, they should be up. If not, I'll make sure they're up now.
Okay, perfect.
Dante, can you make sure the Q&A is up for Thursday? Yeah, from Thursday. Because, yeah, I answered them there and went to pretty deep detail on it, so you should have it. And it was at the beginning of the call, too, so you'll, pretty quickly. It might have been the first or second question I answered.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. How about anyone else? I know Samira has like something, maybe not. She's dealing with it now, but anyone else just questions about finding deals, dealing with contractors? That's kind of the main subjects we always focus on. Well, let's jump into finding deals then. I kind of rotate. I do have some contractor stuff later, but finding deals is a big part. And if you guys have any questions about contractors or anything, we could do that next. But just to give you guys a feel for the finding deal piece, obviously we talk about the same stuff over and over. And the reason that's a good thing is because if you guys were complete masters of it, you'd have a lot of deals. And you'd be like, Mike, I have too many deals. What do I do with them? And so the key is if you're learning something and it's not working, then you keep learning it and you keep trying it until you really, truly get it. So I've had to read some books. I have certain books I've read 5 or 6 times over a couple of years. And every time I read them, I get new stuff from it because I realize that our brain's only capable of comprehending about 15 to 20% of what we read. And then the other 80% is completely wasted. And then of the 15% you comprehend, well, you're only going to remember a certain percentage of it and implement a certain percentage of it, which is actually a pretty low percentage. So it's very reasonable to know that you can actually learn the same stuff over and over and take new things from it. Most people get kind of bored with learning the same stuff over and over. So we only get to where we have like what I call basic understanding of it, right? So you can learn how to analyze a deal and maybe how to comp properties. Like I have a basic understanding, so I'm good with that. I don't want to keep learning how to do that. But like there's like many levels of it. I'm still today learning to get better at it. And part of what makes me great at it is the fact that I've not stopped learning. There was never really a point where I'm like, oh, I know that. So let me just, let me get past that. One of the weaknesses of some people I've seen and of myself in the past is when we get to where we know something, a little bit about something, and we start to get to where, oh, well, we know that, you know what, I don't need to learn that. I know that. Because you miss opportunities to add to what you know. Right? Little tweaks to what you know that could make it much better. And it really is the difference of getting in like the top 20%, the top 2%. You're going to do pretty well in the top 20% if you make it there. And that's going to require you studying the same thing 3 or 4 times just to get in the top 20%. To get in the top 2%, you might study the same thing like weekly for the next 5 years. Right? It's called getting into mastery, right? Becoming like a master house flipper. It takes time, right? There's a lot you have to get good at. And you can't get good at all that in a couple months, but we can get you to where you learn stuff if you practice it and you do it, and then you learn and practice, tweak, and just keep that process going. So when it comes to like looking for deals, it's really simple. If you're on the MLS, you're doing your filtering process, you're getting into the game and making offers, you're getting agents to write for you, and they're like, hey, I think we got a shot, then you've won. That's it. That's all I want you to report back. Nothing more. I don't like a lot of times we get focused on, oh, I want to be able to report that I won a deal or I lost that deal, so I feel like crap. No, it's actually putting yourself in that very optimal situation is the secret to winning. It's also the secret to not being disappointed when you do what you're supposed to do, but it doesn't give you the result you're hoping for. So, because the result most of us are hoping for is to get a deal. But the way this works is we do our job, and we might have to do it 10 to 15 times once we're really good at it to get one deal. So that means we're going to lose 14 out of 15 times, and we can't feel like crap that 14 out of 15. So my focus thing that I measure, for all KPI, key performance indicators, is I measure how many times I could convince the agent to put an offer in for me. So if I can convince an agent to put an offer in for me and they tell me, hey, I think I can push this through, I've built enough rapport for them to want to do that for me. I've also done enough filtering to get down to a pretty decently priced property that makes sense. I've made some strong decisions, meaning I had to decide how much the renovation was and all those things. So that means my brain got an opportunity to really like decide and what works and what doesn't, and make some. And they don't have to be perfect, but it really comes down to like a great little situation. Recently we had someone was like, look, I think I can get your offer through. And then they came back to us and said, look, the offers went higher. And, but they were telling me all that. So like Tanya's like, oh man, I thought we were going to win that one. And I was like, we put ourselves in the right place. It doesn't really matter if we win it. That's not what we're really getting excited about. What I'm very excited about is that they basically told us everything that we need to know. And if we wouldn't, like, the bank had some kind of title issue, so it ended up sitting for like 2 weeks before they could really give a decision to anyone. And that 2 weeks was enough time for the slow money to come in. Does that make sense? Like, the slow money came in because normally they were like, the agent said he could push it through and get it done in a couple of days. A couple of days we would have likely won. What happened is 2 weeks into it, while they were waiting to solve this title issue, some higher offers, some really slow overpaying people got into the game, and like our advantage of being quick and fast to the punch, we lost it. So, but nothing to be disappointed about, because obviously if we didn't have that title issue, we have a really good chance of getting it. Also, if we put ourselves in, we know it's a math equation. If we put ourselves in that situation over and over, eventually what will happen is we're going to get a deal. And that's, it's going to get less and less times you have to be in that situation. So measure the situation that you want to be in. That's the key. And the situation you want to be with an MLS is that you want to be where the agent's willing to write for you. You're offering somewhere around list price or more, so you have a competitive offer. You've made all the decisions on the numbers. You're not just fluffing around with it. You didn't conservatively go in and try to get it too cheap or overpay for it. Both would be bad. You've kind of gotten very, very clear on like what it's worth when you're done with it, what you're going to do with the house. Because see, once you've done that, now you have the ability to walk into a house and know what to do with it. Because this is the secret. And that's why the training we did last was like how to walk in a house, determine like what are we going to make it into, how many beds and baths. So when we comp it, we make sure we get that right. And then when we do our budget, we know it's right because we've actually done the layout and everything that matters. Like we know exactly what the layout should be, all those things. So like, again, don't get upset if you're not winning deals. Only get upset if you're not getting into the most optimal situations. Because see, you can control that, by the way. If you do and say the right things and you get really good at talking to people, they will allow you to be in those very profitable situations. And then they will add up to getting a deal. However, if you live and die with like your ability to win the deal or lose the deal, it's going to be more disappointment than not, right? Think about it. You're going to get disappointed 14 times every time you get a win. It's a little lopsided. So we can't really focus on that, or otherwise we might all go insane focusing on how much we lose. So, that's why I don't like to focus on the end result. With that being said, we obviously are going to need that end result, but I promise you, if you put yourself in very, very profitable situations, you will make money. So next profitable situation with wholesalers would be that, obviously we got them to say yes or no. We got them to tell us where we need to be to take it off the market. So I've had times where I'm like, look, we have an open house on Saturday and it's Thursday. And they're like, we really want to wait to the open house just to see what we get. And I'm like, I understand. If I was you, I'd want to do the same thing. But listen, I need to make a decision today, and I want to get this thing done, man. What number would I have to pay you in order for you to give me that house and cancel that open house and let me buy it today? And if they give me a number, then I've won. Now, whether I can buy it for that number, we don't know. Maybe it's a no, maybe it's a yes. I don't really care, because the optimal situation to be in is have the ability to take the property off the market and get it done before all my competitors get in and look at it and fight for it, because that's what I don't want. So I just want to be able to get them to make a quick decision. What we can't do is let them, say, okay, well, cool, I'll call you on Saturday, because see, once everybody's picked through it, your likelihood of winning the deal has went down big time, right? Because you're in a less optimal situation now. So we know the most optimal situation is getting a yes or a no as early as possible and getting the agent or the wholesaler to want to do business with us. So that in those two free scenarios, that is very true. Another optimal situation, if you're doing any kind of mailing or marketing, would be the same thing. When you're sitting in front of someone and they're like, yeah, I got to think it over. I really want to talk to my family members. I want to do this or that. Well, the thing I'm always saying to them is like, hey, I understand completely, but when people tell me they want to think it over, it really means that my offer just isn't what they were hoping for. Would you say that's the case here? And when they're almost every time like, well, we were hoping to get a little more. And we're not saying your offer's bad, but we really just need to kind of talk it through a little bit if we're going to take that offer. And then that leads me to be able to say, well, I want to make sure I make you an offer that's fair for you and good for your family. And I really do need to make a decision today because I make my offers based on available cash and I have enough cash for one house, which by the way is very true for everyone in this group. Most of you guys aren't buying 6 houses at a time. So it's very true. You might find another house before they get back to you. So we say, I have available cash for one house. And I want to make sure that you get something you're comfortable with. Like, we're going to have to increase my offer to in order for you to be able to tell me yes or no today so I can make a decision whether I could buy your house or not. And when I say that to them, they almost always tell me the number. Now, that number, again, we don't care if it's high or it's low or whatever it is. We just want them to admit, right? We want them to be able to, we want to take away the objection of, I need to think it over. Because see, when they have that objection, they put you in limbo. And essentially, they just go shop you around, whether they intend to do that or not. Like, even when they don't intend to shop you around, it's very, like, people will just tell them things like, well, I'll just pay you more than that. You shouldn't sell it that cheap. So, like, family members, friends, whoever these trusted people are they go to will usually always poison the well a little bit with lack of knowledge. Like, oh, no, things are selling for 200K in the neighborhood. You can't take 100K for that, forgetting that it needs 50 or 60K in work, right? I mean, that don't mean anything to them. You got to pay a realtor and closing costs and all that. They're not adding anything like that into the equation. So the key is that we always want to find out what will it take to make it happen today. Like, and this is not a pushy or very salesy. It's just like, look, I really want to do business with you. It's very authentic. Like, Kate, I really want to work with you. And, I think we've gotten along really well and I trust and like you. And I hope you trust and like me too. I want to do business with you today. Like, what number would I have to be at? So as soon as you get that number, you're in a very optimal situation because you're in control. You have the ability now to say yes or no or negotiate. And guess what? You can negotiate now. You know why? Because they can't go back to, I need to think it over anymore, because they've already admitted that if you get to the right number, they'll sell it to you. So now you guys can just have a very honest and straightforward conversation about the money, because it is always about the money usually. When they're like, oh, well, let me talk to my husband or let me that. It's always because they haven't made an offer that they're not fully convinced that your offer, that other people wouldn't judge them for taking it. And remember, a lot of times we think that they just want the money, but most of the time their biggest fear is making a mistake and, being a fool, right? They don't want to be embarrassed that they sold the house for too little. So our job is to say, hey, where would you feel really comfortable that you got a great deal? And if that number doesn't work, fine. And if you can't negotiate it, fine. And I don't get too upset if I can't, because I can tell you every time I'm in that situation, they're willing to have a discussion about money, I win really often, right? I win often enough to make that a very highly profitable situation to be in. So that's the key, right? We want to be in high profit situations. And that's how it works. If you can keep yourself in high profit situations, you will close more deals. Now, if you're getting caught up in the weeds along the way, right, the journey to the high profit situation, like maybe you're just, you've got some mental baggage or you've got stuff going on. Maybe you're being over analytical in certain spots, any of those things. Just remember, the journey to the highly profitable situation, you have to make that as super concise, right? Get it A to Z, straight line. Don't take any scenic tours or anything, because we don't have time for that. So always figure out the most easy way to get to the optimal situation. But remember, all we're trying to accomplish is highly profitable situations. And I just told you 3 of them, one if you're doing paid and the other 2 are free. And when you're in those situations, I can tell you most students, when they're in those situations and I'm talking to them, I'm like, you're looking good. Like, you got a shot, right? I mean, most students who've been in those situations have actually gotten most of their deals. When they're not, and they're calling me and they're in a very unprofitable situation, then I have to be a little more hard. Like, hey, you're wasting a little bit of your time. An unprofitable situation, so one versus the other, would be if you found something on the MLS and you wanted to offer 40K less than it was listed for, and it's only been on the market 2 days. So the likelihood of that happening is very low. So that makes it very unprofitable to spend a lot of time there. So we have to be willing to say no to that so that we can go back to the drawing board and find the profitable situations. Does that make sense? Because we're in those profitable situations, but there's only enough time for a handful of those profitable situations. So we can't get caught up in the unprofitable situations. Another unprofitable situation with someone who wants to sell a house would be someone who has almost no motivation. The house is in good condition. They owe too much, all those things, right? They have to have some motivation to sell. The house has to be in bad enough condition. They're fully convinced that they can't list it with a realtor and sell it to a homeowner. And they have to have some equity, right? They can't owe 200K and we can only pay 100. That would be a problem. If they've got, they have a low mortgage. If their mortgage is less than what we want to buy it for, then you're in good shape. It's probably good use of your time to talk with them. If they have no mortgage and it's in bad condition and they're pretty motivated to sell, I don't care what they want to get for the property. I go see them like 100% of the time, because that's the three powerhouse things that are very profitable for me. So if they were like, hey, I want to get 200, I'm like, I can only pay them 100. I don't not see them because I know how profitable it is when they have a house that's free and clear, it's in bad condition, and they're like, yeah, I want 200, but I kind of need to do this like in the next 30 days. So I know that 200 will be very negotiable, and I'll have a good opportunity to it basically means I just need to educate them a little more most of the time. Sometimes they stick to the 200, never meet any of their deadlines, and that's the way it is. But if they're truly motivated and they have the ability to sell for less, then let's get in front of them, because that's a very profitable situation. An unprofitable version of that would be, they call and they're like, I was just seeing your letter and I was just calling you. Like, what will you pay me? That's not very profitable, because generally that means they have no motivation. Unless they get someone to overpay, they're probably not going to sell it to you. So should you go see that house? No, you shouldn't. Tanya got a call today, just was telling me about it. And she's like, no, I really want to run this. And I was like, actually, I want to eat lunch instead, because to be honest with you, it's not that profitable a situation. She's like, what does that mean? And I was like explaining the same thing to her. Like, the people are listed, they're listed for 250 and they've had no showings. And like, I don't know, like, it's listed, it's in good enough shape to list. So I don't really see how I'm going to end up picking that up for a number where I could take and buy it, settle it, clean it up, and then resell it for whatever it's worth. I don't think that's a possibility, because it's in good condition. They have other options. I also don't think that what I offer would be the best for them. So at some level, what we offer needs to be a good fit, right? So it's not always about trying to just do what we want. We have to assess whether what we can do for them is a good fit for them. If we think it's a pretty good fit and we could bring a lot of value to them, then we want to be in front of them. However, if me listing the property is not really the best fit, I don't really want to just take listings. I'll take listings with students and stuff because they're renovations, and it fits into my process very well and easy to do. But when it's working with just like homeowners, and there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through, and I'm not dealing with that. So I just don't, I don't need to do that. So anyhow, I was like, let's just talk about that tomorrow. Or like when I have some free time, we'll go through it, but it's not that important. Now, she called me a week ago, and there's a deal where she's like, a guy wants 50K, 50 to 60K in Glen Burnie. And I was like, hold on, I gotta, let me get off the call. And I jumped off a call and actually went through it with her. And we met the guy like within 24 hours and then closed the deal. And I ended up getting the best deal I've ever had. I literally never I bought a house for 36.5 in Glen Burnie. That's worth 180K and only needs like 45K in work. But I was out and seen him. Well, I tried to see him on Sunday and he wouldn't do it. Because we talked to him on Sunday morning. I was like, hey, can you meet this afternoon? And he was like, no, I'm kind of on vacation and stuff, but I can meet you tomorrow afternoon. I was like, okay, make it happen. I had like an appointment. I moved it and everything. Because see, that's a super profitable. I know when he said 50 to 60 that I could easily pay 50 or 60 or more. So I knew I could get this deal done. And we did, by the way. I ended up asking him, like, hey, I know you're looking to get 50 or 60, but what do you really need, like, for us to be able to get this deal done today? And he's like, well, I would like 50 or 60, but honestly, if I can get 20, I'm good. And then I was like, what, 20? Now I have to be honest, I didn't really know what to do in that situation, because I feel like I've never been in it before. That was a new situation for me. I've never had anybody asked me to pay them a third of what I could pay, actually like a fourth of what I could pay. I could have probably paid 80K for the house and made pretty good money. And so, yeah, I could have paid 70, 75 was the number I had in my head that I could go up to. And I ended up just offering him 16.5 more just to be like good. And he was like, really? Well, thank you, man. That's way more than I was expecting. I'm really good with that. And he was super happy. And, I gave more than what he was expecting and still got it for half the price I could pay. Now, again, because I let him do all the talking and I didn't talk numbers, he this is how you sometimes get really good deals. I never made him an offer. I only got him to tell me what he really wanted. And then I told him, hey, I can pay you more than that. I want to make sure I give you as much as possible. And he's like, okay, I'll accept that. And he was very happy to have the extra money. It was a pleasant surprise for him because he totally would have signed at 20K. Now, some level, I don't know if I was wrong and I left 16.5 on the table, but you know what? I'm not. Hey, you know what? We run this business the way we want. And me personally, I prefer giving him a little more money and knowing that like I still got a super deal, but he got more than he expected to. So if that makes sense. So there's some of the stuff. Who in the group feels like they are following and getting in those profitable situations, or who in the group feels like, like, if so, you feel like you're getting in those situations, and share some of them with us. If you don't feel like you're getting in, then talk a little bit about what you think's stopping you from getting in them.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Justin.
Yeah, well, I feel like I'm getting there. My issue has been the deals that I've been finding has mainly been with, as far as the MLS, with realtors who are hard to get in contact with, like with this guy Antoine Johnson. Deals like that, whereas though I can't get in contact with him, and I'm like, okay, I'm tired of wasting time, and therefore I put the offer in myself.
Mm-hmm.
But then I can't tell how close I am as far as getting.
Yeah. Now you're kind of doing it in the dark, right? You don't really have any competitive advantage. My advice on that would be is that at all costs, get the offer in with him or someone that knows him. So if I can't get it, there's some agents you just can't get a hold of. I agree. And they're just not going to answer their phone. I'm one of them. People are calling me right now trying to get me to like talk to them about an offer they want to put in on Northern Parkway, a house we just listed. And, and I'm not answering because I don't answer. It says on there, call my mom, but apparently no one ever reads that. So they still just call me. So what you do is you got to look like, people could call me nonstop the whole weekend, like 5-10 times a day. And on the listing, it says, do not call Michael Green, call me if you want any questions about offers, anything. Michael Green does not answer his phone, essentially. Right. And however, they're still calling me 10 times a day. So don't be that person, because like essentially Antoine Johnson, he might not want to be talked to. He might not be the best guy. Usually there's going to be a co-listing agent. That's number one you can try. Number two, if there is no co-listing agent, then call the office and say, hey, I want to put an offer in on 123 Main Street. It's Anton Johnson's listing. Do you know the best person is to contact in order to put an offer in? Does he have an assistant or anyone that you could refer me to or push me over to? And if you're like, no, we don't know. And then like, hey, is there an investment agent in the office that works with Antoine? Right. We want to figure that out. Like just get someone even from his office is going to give you a better advantage than you doing it yourself. Because see, someone in his office might be able to go knock on his door and say, Antoine, I got to put an offer in for a client. Like, can you work this out for me? And like, even just them knowing each other that much will give you an advantage that you don't currently have yourself. Because when you just put the offer in yourself, you just go into a pile of paper and you get analyzed. Like just for what you are. Like, are you the highest? And if you're not, then you don't get it. And that's the way it works. So it is like, I've went all the way down to one time I asked an agent, and I don't get here often. I was like, well, like, who do you know? Like, and they're like, well, I don't know anyone. Or like you haven't had lunch with another agent or met an agent you like at a happy hour, did a deal with an agent you really like and felt like, like you'd love to work with them again. I'm just looking for any recommendation. And the guy was like, I did have lunch with this agent a couple weeks ago. He was like trying to get in the game. He's like a really great guy. And I wouldn't mind helping giving him a referral. Right. As soon as he said that, that's buy-in from him that he wants that agent to win. See, now because he's referred that person, he has a small connection to him of like not wanting that person to win. Like, believe it or not, that is a pretty big advantage. I mean, it's a small one, and versus like getting them to write for you, but it's still much better than putting it in yourself. When you put it in yourself, you essentially are getting in a very unprofitable situation. I've won like maybe one deal and like maybe two deals in like 3 years, putting them in myself. And in those scenarios, they were just, the agents were just like, no, but you know what? Well, it's both times. It was like, you know what? I can't do it for you just because of this thing happened before in the past. But like, if you put it in, I'll know it's yours. And they almost were basically kind of giving me the same information as if they were putting it in for me. They just didn't feel comfortable writing. So that was the two times I won where I basically got the information without giving them the listing. I still got all the information I want, that I'm hoping to get, but I didn't have to give them the listing. So either way, sometimes they'll give it to you without even actually like listing it for you. So you can still get that information you need. It's not always 100% no. So like, yeah, man, go as far as humanly possible and know that as soon as you put it in yourself, you've gotten in a very unprofitable situation. Like 25-30 deals I've done in the last 2 years, 3 years. I don't know if the MLS, probably like 30s in the 30s, and 2 of them have been put in myself. But both times I had all the same information that I would have had as if I didn't, I worked with the agent. So in theory, I kind of got what I needed and still got a commission. That was actually kind of awesome. but I wasn't in a situation where I just blindly sent an offer in. Like propoffers.com is a great example where it's like, you know, they automate everything. The agent doesn't talk to anyone. You just send your offer in, and like 14 days later, like, yeah, sorry to tell you, you didn't win. Like that's pretty much what happens with propoffers.com in my experience. I know there's some in other states it works well, but here in Maryland, it's definitely been a little bit just kind of, you know, no competitive advantage at all. You're only going to win if you're willing to be the highest offer.
Right. Kind of like with HomePath.
HomePath, same way. Anything where they're making you just automate it in and there's no human person to give you that advantage, then not great. But with HUD is actually really good. So HUD is one where you have no competitive advantage and you can put the offer in yourself. And HUD's really good because HUD, you can hack a little bit, because HUD's one of those things where if you put an offer in the first day it's open to investors and it meets the number they want to hit and no one else brings a higher offer in that same first 24 hours, they'll accept your offer in like 24 hours, like 12 to 24 hours. I've got like the one that Nick was going to do, but ended up giving to me, was kind of mine too. I seen it and he's seen it at the same time. And I was like, hey, I don't want to compete with my students. So I was like, if you want it, it can be your first flip. I'll just give it to you. Just let me listing on the back end. We ended up finding something closer to home. And so I just kept that. But I seen that one and we got the offer in, and like really quickly, we got like a response that was like $9,000 higher than we wanted to pay. And eventually I ended up going out there and seeing that it was actually a much better condition, I thought, and it was a bigger house than they said on the tax record. So it actually had a higher ARV. So that indiscrepancy gave me an opportunity. And then I re-put the offer in, and because they accepted it like in 12 hours. So HUD is really good. It's because HUD can react quick. The reason prop offers and HomePath suck so bad is you put an offer in, it sits for like 2 to 3 weeks before you get a response. And again, the slow money comes in. So HUD, at least, they're very quick. So if you can buy it first day it's on the market to investors and you hit the number they want, then often you're in a good spot. So I've won a lot of deals that way, putting the offer in like first thing in the morning. Sometimes me and Dave used to stay up and do it like 12:01 at night. So they would be sitting in their inbox first thing in the morning. I think if you get up at like 6 in the morning, it's the same outcome. You know, put it in like 6 or 7 in the morning, it's kind of a similar outcome. Okay. I didn't want it to stay up till 12:01 putting offers in. Okay. So yeah, just figure out how not to put it in, because it seems like the feedback you're giving me is that you've been putting them in yourself and they're not working. Second thing I would say to you is that, okay, that's probably one part of the problem. It might be the biggest part. The second would be really bringing some of your deals that you're putting offers into the group, and let's analyze them to make sure you're seeing them clearly. Because sometimes when people are not winning, they're also maybe making offers that just aren't really that aggressive or very, very, they're not very winning offers, right? They're just offers that are maybe missing some stuff, and you know that's why. So you really want to make sure that you've got your ARV right, you know, really nailed like how much can I get 100%, and you got that renovation cost dialed in. You know, you're not just throwing it, oh well, let's just call it 80, right? Because like Glory's deal is a great example, right? Hers is like 70K in renovation. She could have easily said 80, and I think she even said 80 to start with, and then we weeded it down. She wouldn't have gotten the deal if she would have thought it was 80K in renovation, because 10K, she couldn't have got it for 10K less. She got it for exactly what she could pay for. And so it was a matter of, the reason it all came together was because she offered exactly what she needed to offer to win. Because like people just won't, the general public won't let you win if you're running like 85K renovation costs and your competitors are running 70. Just because you have to offer 15K less, and 10 to 15K is enough to lose for the rest of your life. You legitimately could put offers in the rest of your life and never win if you're 10 to 15K off. So I would maybe recommend for you, just, you know, when you get something that you're putting in, you think you're got a good chance on it. I haven't seen any of those from you very often. So maybe doing that would be a good thing, just to get some, you know, second opinion. See if you're doing it as well as you can. If that makes sense.
Okay, I got you. I mean, well, one, for example, that I'm looking at, I don't know if I'm sure you know the area, 1023 Kevin Road. It's up there in Edmondson Village.
I don't know that street exactly, but I could look at it pretty easily. I mean, I don't know Kevin Road.
Yeah, no, I put it, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of lowballed them a little bit on this one, because I put it in for 55, and they got it listed for 68. So I mean, I know I lowballed them at the same time, so I wasn't really expecting it. Was kind of a shot in the dark, but at the same time, I put it in.
Well, it's basically just think of it as a waste of your time if you don't go 100% on the MLS. Now, if you're dealing with a private seller, it's a whole different story, right? It's just really going to depend on the situation you're in. Like, obviously, I was in a situation where I could offer less just recently with a private seller. But when you're on the MLS, know that, like, not only are you looking at that, but like everyone on this group is looking at it. And this is a very small, this group represents just like this much, right, of the investors out there. There's a lot of people out there that are like desperate to buy a house and willing to overpay. And the good news, if you're doing it pretty early on the market, you probably aren't going to get into the people that always overpay. You'll get into the people who know the numbers like you know it. So you just really have to beat other investors who know the numbers when it's early on. But you won't beat them if you're really just going too low on it. So I would say like honing it in is really big. Do you have the ability to email me the address, any comps or anything you have on it, just so I can take a look at it?
Yeah, I can email it to you.
Yeah, send it over and I'll answer a couple questions and we'll take a quick look at it and see. Tell me what you think the numbers are, because that'll be a big piece of this. Because if somehow whenever I'm like 55, this will be good for the group. Whenever you're like, I'm going to offer 55 and they're at 68, you're pretty close to the list price. So don't think that means you're going to get the deal. What I look at it and say is like, okay, am I overestimating anything? Could I actually get closer to this list price? And not be wrong, obviously. But so I might go back and take a second look at the comps and make sure I'm getting the comps right. And then I'll look at the renovation budget and say, okay, is there anything I could like keep this a little more affordably and not round it up? Because I've had times where it's like 52 and I just rounded up to 60. Well, like 8K could be the difference in winning and losing a deal like this. 8K of like, so not rounding up is pretty important. Like getting more specific and more detailed is the secret to winning a deal like this. You're really getting into the numbers, but we want to do it when we're pretty close. So 55 versus 68, you're actually pretty close. I mean, this would be a perfect one to dig in and see. Might get in there and you got to offer 40. You might get in there and maybe you can offer 62, and maybe 62 versus 55 is all the difference in winning or losing, right? That's because I will tell you that I've lost like hundreds and hundreds of deals over like 7K, and that's when I learned to have to be more specific, right? I can't just go in there and like vaguely make offers. I used to be able to do that when the market was worse, because it was so abundant that you could just kind of lowball some stuff and get it. And it would work sometimes. I've seen in the last, say, 3 to 4 years, that just doesn't happen anymore. Like, yeah, you just don't get lucky. Not on the MLS anymore, just the way it is. People are too focused in on it. But still plenty of room to win, just not like you're not going to win without like actually getting your stuff together, right? And making a strong offer. So yeah, take and send it to me and let me know when you send it over and we'll jump and take a look at it. Anybody else in the group have any questions in general about like making offers? I feel like I'm a little bit stuck, or in general, any help, like, or just like evaluating where you are in the process? All right, well then we will jump right in and see if Justin sent us this email.
Hey, Mike. So what email you want me to send you to?
Mickey G Flipping. You have that one?
Oh, flipping.
Oh, Shauna, do you have something you want to look at too? Advice?
Yeah, if you can. It's from a wholesaler, Roselawn. My initial impression was I thought maybe her estimate of the comp was too high, but I'm not sure. So
probably a good guess. I would say it's a good guess usually, right? I mean, that's a fair guess. So tell me what you think the comps are, and tell me, it says you think it's 80K in repairs is your estimate. What do you think the comps are based on what you're seeing?
My initial limited thing, I put it at like 200.
Okay.
So I don't think if it's 200, if it's that low, it's not a deal at 100K.
Okay.
For the wholesaler plus 80, it's not a good deal. But the wholesalers put the average ARV at like 255.
Yeah, I mean they can be off big time. So
yeah,
they're just going to take the highest sold, and they're not going to consider like all the details. So Roselawn, obviously it is anywhere from 255 to 200, depending on the house. So what is it they want for it?
Initially 104, then she's down to 100.
So obviously, yeah, even at 100, not a deal, but let's see where we are. So, okay, that's a loss of 13K. That's not going to work. So really, if it was 230, it don't work either, really.
Yeah.
Kind of, I mean, 255, it kind of makes some sense, but sometimes I think they just put, like, I feel like they have a deal analyzer, and here's what they do. They'll just put an ARV in that makes the deal work. Does that make sense? So, okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I really have seen them do that, and it's almost, and honestly, I've done that personally, where I've almost like kept looking at it so long and try to convince myself that I start seeing things that weren't there. Like I started seeing like mirages, like I've been in the desert and I'm thirsty, and it's just they're not there. So let's look at it and see where it is. But tell me a little bit about like the size of the house, anything you know about the house that would be important. Like how big is it? Will it have a finished basement? Because all those things will determine.
It does not have a finished basement. It looks like the basement and the one-car garage are kind of one and the same. It's kind of around the back. There's 3 bedrooms upstairs. Nice size first floor with kitchen and 2 living room, family room. I think it was like total 1,700 square feet.
Can you finish the basement?
Yes.
So you could have a finished basement. So in your 80K, you're gonna add so 3-1. You'll be a 4-3 probably when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I didn't see much room up to put another bathroom upstairs. And the one up there is kind of, long and narrow, but if you can get a nice suite in that basement garage, I think it could be nice.
I only got to remember my login. Okay. Let me type it. Okay, I see it was 3013849. That is my name. Okay, I had a capsule, and that's why. Hey, I'm in. You gotta just try it, the same thing a few times. And sometimes I think they're just making sure you're serious. Like, like, did you accidentally get that right? Or make you do it a couple times. So, okay, you can finish a basement. It's 3-1 above grade. On the first floor, is there any additional space that might be able to make made a fourth bedroom? Or because really what's important is being able to like put a master suite somewhere. If you have no master suite, then obviously, you can still sell it, just that might affect the comps a little. It was 2,800 Roselawn, right?
Yes.
And it's that's only guess 21214.
Yes.
Okay, all right, got it. I know the area. I've done a few on Roselawn.
Yeah, when I was over there, I'm like, I've been on this street before.
Yeah, it's a pretty popular street and good part of town. I do a lot of houses over there, so it's definitely a reasonably good part of town. So Roselawn is a very specific street, but so you have Roselawn. Here's very close to you, closed, and let's just see how you compare. But I mean, there's a 249 closed, 12 doors away, 5-3, only 1,300 square feet, so that's good, and it netted like 242. So I mean, based on that one comp, it definitely looks like it could be higher than we expected. And 18 days on the market. It is a 5-3, but what they did is they did 2-1 on the main, they did 1-1 upper, and then 2-1 lower. So okay, so the 5 bedrooms don't really count as much because really 2 are in the basement. So that's really like a 4-3. Is the way I look at that, because 5-3, 4-3, not a big difference in value. And this is very close to us, so we do like that. I mean, we can look at the pics, but we're assuming it's going to be a nice renovation. It's a Cape Cod. I mean, it don't look like a really big house. It does look well done. Nice kitchen, nice everything, really. They've just basically optimized the space, it looks like, and just squeezed a lot into it.
Yeah.
Nice yard and all that, so pretty similar. Okay, let's Roselawn. Let's see. I mean, that's obviously says 0.3, but it's only you're 2,800, so that's 3,000. That could be very different. I was thinking it was super close. Just starting with Roselawns, but really what I'll focus on is stuff that's pretty close to us, like this one. So there's a house that I went for 247. It's only like 900 square feet. It's a little looking house too. It don't really look that big. Again, they've squeezed a bunch of stuff in. And yeah, don't look nothing special. And again, they put 2 in the basement. I don't know if that's a new thing. I'm just starting to see. That's the first time I've ever seen people doing like 2 bedrooms in the basement. It's uncommon actually. So I wonder if like that's a new thing that's doing well over there. But he's got some serious numbers. So with that being said, somebody liked it. Might start to be.
This was on a nice corner lot. It's a nice, corner house. It's been vacant
Do you have any
for like 7 years.
pics or anything of it?
Yeah, I sent you a video.
Oh, good. Let's look at that because that might be a good first step. Let's take a
Yeah,
look.
I
We'll look at
wondered
yours
if-
next, Justin.
Yeah. I asked her if there was a fire in there, and she said no, but it looks like she said that squatters maybe took a lot of the drywall down.
Oh, this is the video here. Okay.
Yeah.
I did see that. Let's take a look at that.
Let me apologize for my video quality in advance.
Oh, you're going to have to step that up, Sean. I mean, you can't be coming like we need you to get a full production crew. You can get a good camera for $5,000. You're just going to need to invest in it.
I'll get the 5,000 from you, though, right?
I mean, as long as I can borrow it. If I can borrow it, then we're fine. And you're going to need some music. Like, I would want to hear this more if it was like, yeah, just checking out this house. Boom, chicka, boom, boom. So, yeah. So, I mean, it needs work, but, I don't know what the deal
like
is.
the
Maybe that
front.
was moldy or something.
Okay.
It don't look all that bad, though, actually. Hey, is that the music?
I don't know. Might have heard me saying something
You
crazy.
do have music in there.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. I was fooling with an editing thing. Sorry.
All right, I was joking about the music, but it's a good touch. But other than the fact that it's country music and I'm not a fan, like let's get some rock music in, some R&B. The country music's a
I'm
little
working
sad.
on it. I'm working.
All right, she's like just put in like I don't even know who. I was gonna try to say something funny, but I don't even know like a country guy's name. All right, I don't know. Okay, it's getting better now. Oh, now the music's gone. All right. It's a little hard to tell the layout, but what I do like about it is a lot of the sheetrock that isn't ripped out can be saved. So that's good because it's pretty clean looking. And, and looks like, let's see.
That's the basement.
Do you measure it when you go down in it? Like measure from ceiling to floor just to make sure it's.
Man, I didn't go all the way down there. I ain't that brave.
Well, you're going to have to
working
figure
on
that
that
out because.
I know.
Because the reason I say that is like if you don't know if it's tall enough, that could really affect the value if you can't finish it.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to tell in the picture.
Yeah, I think it's the
So
garage.
even if you just took one more step and just measured for me, it would be great because I can't really tell you if it's actually like tall enough or not. Because if it isn't tall enough, and you end up pulling permits. But it looks like it's it might connect to the garage usually. But it just, you have a basement. So it looks like you can probably put one bed, one bath down here pretty easily. And it looks like it used to be finished. So we aren't going to be able to do a master suite. Let me see if I can see the outside. That was kind of what I cared about. You're going to get it. Oh, cool. Now we're outside. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, I saw some cracks, but I thought maybe that was in the stucco that was added. I'm a little crazy.
All right, let's see what we got going on. This is the backyard or?
Yeah, that's like the back door.
That's a side.
Yeah.
You got a nice square backyard? Nothing. You said it's a nice lot, right?
It's on a corner lot. The back wasn't that great.
Oh, so that could be a value problem if you don't really, because I mean, it looks like the backyard looks a little weird to me. So anytime you see something that's not that great, make sure you take some video of it to show me, and that way, because I can use that to determine how much it's going to affect the value of the property.
Okay.
My guess is that okay. Good news is I'm pretty sure it's more than 200, but probably not 255. So let's go back to our comps and see what we come up with, but. Because I think one of the challenges will be is that you don't have, the master suite and all those things that are pretty desirable, but you still got a pretty nice house.
If you can't do that, if you can't do a master suite in that basement garage, then.
Well, you wouldn't put it in the basement. It usually won't. Nobody's going to accept it down there. So
Okay.
let's see. It says Roselawn, Hamlet, 23. What does the front look like? Does it look like that?
No, it's traditional.
Okay, like a colonial.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Is it brick?
No.
Let me see something real quick. Okay, we didn't want that. Trying to get a feel for what we're looking at. Oh, so it's this house. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little nicer house. That's actually, they're usually pretty big. So the fact you got 3 above grade is actually pretty nice. 1,500 square
Mhm.
foot, 1.5 baths. Okay, and you put one in the basement. So you probably end up being like a 4.3. All right. Yeah, that'd be a very nice looking house when it's done. That's pretty nice. Probably nice looking those Cape Cods. So I would probably, let's just go back and see how it might affect things. So we know this is the traditional 5.2. And I'm just looking now to see, it says main 5 bedrooms, 2 baths. So they just did that wrong, unfortunately, because there's no way they're all on the same floor. Beachland. I mean, yeah, they got 2 in the main, 1 on the upper, 2 in the lower. So really just 3 bedrooms above grade. But you can't tell me the one upstairs kind of says that it's got a master suite on the 2nd floor. That's what they're doing. So it's actually a very Cape Cods are kind of the most undesirable, but what's interesting is you can get a master suite up there, which you struggle to do otherwise. When you have you actually have a better look. So this is a 4.2 one, and this has a main 3 upper, 2 full, and upper 2. Oh, so it's 3 stories. Oh wow. That looks like a pretty big house too. Seems like a bigger house for some reason. But you always see these aren't even going for the 255, but I think the number's probably higher than we expect. There's plenty of stuff here. Actually, let me do this so I can see what we're looking at. And we'll just try to see if we can find something like ours. So, well, that one's very much like ours, but it's 1,900 square feet, but that went for 300,000. That's kind of awesome. Gibbons, let's see if we got a front of the house picture. You know what I should have did? Go backwards. It's always the last picture. Garage. Okay, it's kind of ugly. Well, it's Cape Cod. It was ugly from the side, but it's Cape Cod 4.3. Okay. This is Bayonne 288. Yeah. That's the comp. Don't make no sense to me. I think it is finished basement. I just did one on Bayonne, and my house looks nicer than this. And I'm 2,700 square feet, and I'm listed for 249 and not selling right now. And this one's very, very close to my Bayonne, but my house probably looks nicer than this for sure. But I don't have a finished basement. Remember I was telling you how much a finished basement matters over there? It really does affect the value. It makes things inconsistent. It doesn't always hurt you, but sometimes it does, and you just don't know. So we got 4.2 on that one. Shoot, there's a lot of stuff here. The prices are definitely going up in this area. Considerably higher than they're really kind of skyrocketing. With your square footage, you might be like the mid 2s for sure. That's Roselawn 249. I think you're better in this house. You got better square footage and everything. So I'm trying to be a little more specific on this because your house is a little bit unique for the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Normally I can just tell you, but I think you're in a pretty solid spot. But if we ran the numbers, so here's kind of the details. My guess, first of all, is that you're not going to probably need 80K for that house. It's not in awful condition, and 80K would be like doing everything. It's pretty much like kind of top to bottom. Normally, I'm spending about 70K on a house like that. Because you're not going to be, if you're 3-1 upstairs, you're not going to be making major layout change, number one. So that's going to save you some money. You got to do some stuff in the basement. And honestly, probably part of what made you feel like it was 80 is the fact that, like, it's just a mess, like where they tore a lot of stuff out. But that's pretty easily fixed. That just makes it look ugly, which I think helps you get a good deal. Like, you want that.
Okay.
See, most people look at that and then they bump the rehab up on it when it really doesn't represent any real damage or anything that's expensive. Just some sheetrock you probably are going to end up replacing anyhow. So, I'd put about 70K on it and probably like a 240 ARV based on what I'm seeing if I was buying the property. And let's take a quick look and let's see what that does or what position you're in with that. I think that's going to get you more in the game. So 240, because 80 is a lot. I mean, it's that house that has a lot of savable stuff in it. Actually, it's pretty decent. Just ugly looking because of all the craziness.
Yes.
I mean, it actually works. So, I mean, personally, since knowing this is a good deal, if you're really serious about doing it, this is something I would consider doing. I mean, if you want to try to get it for 95 or something, and you never know, but a lot of times when it is a good deal, it usually gets swiped up. So the more you kind of mess around, the more likely you are to call her and be like, I sold, and she'll be like, I sold to someone else.
Okay. I'll be on it.
Personally,
today.
yeah, I mean, I would jump on this. If I need a house right now, I'd buy this one. I like the house. It's actually really nice. And 70K gives you a lot of room, by the way. And what we just seen overall gives you a lot of room on that house to be at 70K. I couldn't tell.
Okay.
So what I didn't get an opportunity to see is some of the money items, like the roof, windows, like, down in the basement with the boxes, electric, plumbing. But based on the condition of the rest of the house, like the kitchen being pretty nice and all that, I can make an assumption that there's something savable. If you needed all those things, it might be like 75, but I'm just going to take an educated guess that you can't need all those things. You got a newer kitchen, so likely the electric or plumbing's been somewhat updated. You don't have to gut it. Secondarily, like, I don't know if you need a roof, you need windows. You might need some.
It does need a roof. It does. She said it needs roof repair.
Good. Okay. So roof, no problem. Does it need all new windows too?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, get the answers to these questions. Yeah, figure out like what the windows are, what's going on in the basement, all those things. So that the deal works. The only thing I would ask you is your first rehab, making sure you're comfortable doing that. Because if you don't want to come in the basement, like, you're going to have to get in there and get wiggy with it, right? You're going to have to get down into this stuff a little bit, because people, if you don't go in there, they're going to be like, well, Shauna, you don't know how you bought this thing. It like needs a lot of work. We're going to need a bunch of money.
I know.
So obviously, if you decide you want to buy it, then next step of this is we focus on getting deals. That's our conversation today. Once we get it, like what Marlo's going through right now, Nick's going through, a lot of people are going through that are in their deals, and Glory went through yesterday. Now we start putting together our budget, a design. We start really optimizing the overall, making sure that you have the best layout for the house. You've done as much as you can do with it. You really have gotten very tight on the budget, and then you're good to go. So that's the planning stage of it. And then once you plan, you can settle, and then you got to get out and start hiring people and start getting people to do the work. So let's start now today. The numbers look good. You would not be in a bad deal. If you can get it for like 95, you probably can make it even juicier, but you also take the risk of losing it too. So personally, I would just buy it for the price you can get it at and lock it up as ASAP.
All right. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. And Justin, let's take a look at yours and see. Let's see if Justin sent me over some details here. I don't see anything from Justin yet.
You didn't get it?
Well, it doesn't look like it, but
it's Mikey G at Gmail.
That's Mickey, Mickey G.
Mickey G. Mickey.
Yeah, Mickey G flipping at gmail.com. I'll take a look for it, and just tell me the address while you're sending it, and I'll go ahead and get the comps up while we're doing that.
1023 Kevin Road.
1023 Kevin Road. Okay. Townhouse.
Yeah, it's a row house.
Okay. So this is a different part of town. There's Kevin here. 130. Kevin. 114, 119. So there's some of your highest Kevins. See what they look like. See if they're renovated. That'll tell us a lot. All right, just taking a quick look. So here's a Kevin Road renovated. That's the basement. Got radiators in it, but overall looks like it's I don't know if it's like my favorite renovation, but just a million pictures of the neighborhood. See another one. That one's definitely renovated. 114. So you can tell that actually looks like a renovation. The other one, I was like, couldn't tell. It was kind of like the worst pictures I've ever seen. So you don't even know if it's renovated or not. It looked renovated, but I couldn't really tell. This one's clearly got new carpet, paint, and everything. Looks really nice. 1.5, 1,152 square feet. Sold for 114 minus nothing, and sold in 32 days. So reasonably like 115 based on this size. Do you know the square footage of your property?
Yeah, it's 11,152.
Oh, cool. So that's the same as this then. And
Yeah.
so there's comp number one. The 130 is potentially a comp. Let's look at the next one under this because there was two together, 909 and 9. And you said this was 1023, right? So this is like the next block up from these. And this one is, well, it's been renovated. It's definitely a renovation, but it looks like somebody bought a renovation, lived in it because there's like their socks and stuff. You can tell it's very lived in, but it looks like something that was renovated when they bought it. You know, that one's only 99, but it's also not perfect condition either, but still kind of supports like maybe a 110 to 120. And I guess where things can get confusing is that if you're taking some of these better streets, this is not Edmondson Village from my understanding. This is next to Edmondson Village, so it's called Rogel Heights, and not going to be as pricey as Edmondson Village. But if you're doing some stuff, you can easily get into Edmondson Village. Like Flowerton is Edmondson Village, Wicklow, these are all Edmondson. Wildwood, these are all Edmondson Village. But Kevin is not in Edmondson because I never heard the name before, so it makes sense. And we can look and see, actually. Let's look at the map. Yeah, I think it's in Rogel Heights, which is, oops. So right next to Edmondson Village. Yeah, see, this is Edmondson Village. This is Rogel Heights or Rogel Heights. So Rogel Heights, not as good as Edmondson Village. Edmondson Village is all this. This is where your 150, 160 comps are. You're seeing two on the street that suggested that it's no more than, it's definitely in the low hundreds for sure. So just a quick little thing. What I do is I'm always looking at the comps, and I know you said you offered like what on it exactly?
I call it a 55.
Okay, and then how much work did it need?
I based it at like 40,000.
Okay, so you probably just got a higher ARV because you probably just pulled the stuff from the next neighborhood.
Well, no, actually, to be exact, I'm gonna show you the exact comps that I got.
We'll tighten it up a little and see what happens.
Yeah, because I got 1128 Seminole Avenue for 159, and 1003 Wicklow. I got that one for 165.
Yeah, they're both real close to you, but unfortunately there's two on your street that say something different. Okay. You know, so it might suggest that Kevin ain't the best street. The problem with this neighborhood is that certain streets are good, certain aren't. So some have a high ratio of tenants, which means there's a higher ratio of drugs and crime. And some are just pretty much homeowner streets. Surprisingly, even in that neighborhood, there's like a lot of homeowners, a lot of nice, well-maintained lawns, and you'll see the highest comps on those, which obviously we're seeing But on Kevin, my fear would be is that, and I think we've seen this with Marlo a few times too, where he showed me some properties. It was like one street over sold for a bunch, but then on his street, like things were renovated, just were only selling for like 115. Well, that's a clear renovation. So I don't know how we're going to go from 115 to 150. Now, normally when you're not in a city, you're in a county or you're in a more stable neighborhood, it isn't so block to block. But in the city, sometimes it's not block to block, but you always want to take and do 2 comps. I always start in the city when I see it's a neighborhood like this. I start with the street just because I'm like, I know how block to block it is in this neighborhood. As soon as I see it, I'm like, oh, it's block to block area. So I'll start right on the street and just see what it says. And then if I see different comps on the other blocks, it's just to me, the story it's telling me is that the numbers ain't that great. Now, another reason why you might not even win it at 55, even though I think you'd be greatly overpaying for it, is because this area is a little more tough for MLS deals. And the reason why is there's a lot of people buying rentals over there. So there's a lot of people overpaying for properties. And it's not like you're not truly competing against other renovators. You're actually competing against landlords. And they're a little tougher to compete against because they're not looking to make their money when they're done the flip. They might be okay making it, like they might look at it and say 55 is good. I don't really need to make any money on it because I can pull in $1,400 a month rent. So that's very common, by the way, just so you know. So that area on the MLS has been tougher for me. I used to get a lot of deals in that area. I haven't gotten any off the MLS in that area in probably 2 years. Maybe it's been over 2 years. And I think that's kind of the last ones I've done. Just because in general, in the last like 2 years, since everybody's been getting real crazy about the BRRRR method and buying houses and, refining out of them, they effectively have been, just very overpaying very much in that neighborhood. Same things happened to Dundalk, by the way. I used to do a lot of houses in Dundalk, little row homes, but I had one recently where I was like, you know what, if I make like 20K on it, I'll take it. It's close to home and pretty easy. And somebody paid me 20,000 more than me. I'm like, I was going to make 20K. Like, what in the world were they thinking to make? Nothing. So I started realizing, well, they weren't thinking to make anything. They're just like, doing some crazy, I'll pay too much because the rent will justify stuff, which is very common when the market gets hot. It's really common for people to build like 5, 10, 15 house portfolios that are complete pieces of crap. And then when the market shuts down, they go out of business. Like I know because like in 2009, 8, 10, and 11, guess what phone calls I was taking from a crap ton of landlords are like, I own 15 properties. I want to sell them off. Can you buy them all? And I go there and I'm like, you owe like 20K more on every one of them than they're worth. Like if you give me, you'd have to give me like 300K to buy them all. And they're like, oh man. And then they just end up giving them back to the bank because the bank is lending kind of aggressively right now. So it's allowing people to do stupid stuff. Right. When the money was tighter, you had to actually like bring a good deal. I'm definitely seeing, especially in that neighborhood, like Sabina, who's done probably like 10 in that neighborhood. She's been showing me a lot of telling me the banks offer her more money than she even wants. So she's been giving me that feedback that like she's had turned down some money actually because she's like, I don't want to get overextended on it. She's smart. She's buying good deals. And she's buying a lot of them in the good part where they truly have like 150K ARVs and she's paying right around like 60 to 70, putting like 30 in and getting like $1,400 a month rent. And then basically refining out at like 100K and costs her like $700 a month. So she's able to make good cash flow and she has equity and everything. But the issue is that she might be able to pay 70 even when I'm like paying 60 because in order for me to make even just like a 25K profit, because she rehabs too. So I told her like, if you get one, you can rehab. But what she's finding is she can pay 10 more K for the rental than she can pay for a rehab. And it still makes a lot of sense as a rental. Now, the issue is there's some people paying 30 more K. And that's where it's getting real out of hand. What she's doing is not wrong. Paying 10 more K still makes financial sense for her. She's just that's her niche essentially for buying rentals. Because the rents are very, very high in that neighborhood. I mean, I would say they're probably some of the highest of Baltimore for a row home. And it's not that great of an area, but the rents are very high, $1,400-$1,500 a month, I think.
Yeah. And so, I mean, as far as her paying that extra 10K, so what is she putting in lower quality as far as her renovation is lower? I mean, but she's still able to get that top money as far as the refi?
The refis basically, so the refis are super light right now. They're kind of giving them, so they'll just look at the 150 comps and they'll give her the 150. Like on this street, if you refied this, I have no doubt you can go to a bank and they would give you a 150 in appraisal because they would see there's 2 houses within 0.1 miles, and that's what they would do. But if you go to put it on the market, the proof's in the pudding that 2 other people that put houses on the market that are similar to what you're going to make yours did not sell. So like we could trick the bank. We can't trick the general public in general. Usually right. We can't trick them. But yes, these days it's a little easy to trick the bank. It's not a guarantee. I always do it because you never know, the bank could catch it and like, oh, look at these, what sold on Kevin. Like that would be a smart appraisal, but most appraisers aren't getting a lot of pressure right now to underappraise things. They're probably getting more pressure to push things through so the banks can make the loans, if that makes sense. When
I
things
got you.
get really tight, then the appraisers get a lot of pressure to be conservative because they want to underwrite in a tighter way. But now I think they're getting that whenever the market's hot, the appraisers are getting pressure to like not mess the deal up because they don't want to lose business, because they know like an agent, if their appraiser comes out and underappraises it by 20K, an agent's gonna be like, I'm not using it anymore. I'm going to the other guy. They appraise everything. And it's too competitive for everybody. You know, they want to make sure they get their share of the business. However, it does, as soon as the market corrects, then everything shifts to the opposite side of that fence. So I would say, just like in reality, that's the actual value of it. I had one on Augusta, which is right in the heart of Edmondson Village, but on a block that was a little shaky. And I bought it for $20,000 or $15,000, and I was like, oh, I was hitting a home run. And put like 30 into it, and I was going to keep it as a rental. And then my partner was like, I don't want any more rentals. Let's just sell it. We ended up selling it for like 9,000. And there was comps all day long on Augusta, 3 blocks up, that were selling for 140, 150. And then, you know, things are a little higher now where they're going for like 140 to 160, like 135, 140 was the number back then. And I think it was like 140, and we got 99 because the block we were on was iffy, and 2 blocks up got more homeowner feeling. And it's not even street to street. Sometimes it's block to block even. So yeah, we have to respect the comps on the street more than ones off the street. So now if you would have had no comps on Kevin, then I totally would have been cool using these, and we would have had to make an educated guess. But probably what I would have done, just knowing it's a block to block, is I would have went farther back, because I don't like buying stuff where I've never seen anything sell on the street, because it leaves me in the dark to make a mistake, like thinking Kevin's actually worth 140, 150 when it's really only 115. So this is why it's important to have some comps on your street, even if they're 3 years ago. Like, I'd prefer looking at a comp 3 years old before, you know, on my street, before I go a couple blocks over, not knowing if there's a huge change in a couple blocks over. And like I said, in Edmondson Village, even just a couple blocks on the same street can be different. I've seen it's just very up and down. So the comps in that neighborhood go from 99 to 160, 170. Like, it's literally as low as 199 on one of the worst streets and up to 170 on one of the best streets. So it is a little tricky that way, in my opinion. Now, I think we looked at the comps for like Marlowe's house is actually in Edmondson Village. He paid 65 for his, and his is actually in pretty nice shape. So it's really not bad at all. I mean, his actually would probably be a really amazing rental play, because it seems pretty close to rent ready. It's like kind of not real far from being a rental. So I told him, like, even if somehow he couldn't sell it, like, he could totally burr it and get great rent from it. And I think his comps were 140, 150. I can't remember, but they were in that ballpark. And but they were solid on his street. And even then, I think our comps were a little bit lower. Somebody had showed him, the wholesaler had showed him like stuff on other streets that sold for more. But I was like, look at the stuff on your street and what it sold for, and it was less. So it's tricky over there. And it's a great lesson for everyone, because this neighborhood in Edmondson Village is very much like that. But your job, whenever you're looking at any house in any neighborhood, is to make sure, first look at your diameter and just see if it looks consistent. And then you want to kind of check your street. So that's why you always see me kind of, these days, I'm going like the Rose Lawn, because over in Hamilton, there's some streets that are nicer than the others. But first thing we landed on was a 247 on Rose Lawn. So, okay, got it. My head saying, okay, 240, 245 for Shauna. Not like, actually, Shauna's deal, she could probably get more for it. Like, I kind of really went a little bit conservative on the ARV. I think I hit the 70 where it's supposed to be, and I was a little bit conservative on the ARV just because I don't know what we can do. I know worst case scenario, she's getting 240 and spending 70. There's a chance I get in there with her and we see it like a little better, more clear, and maybe it's higher ARV, maybe it's less work. So that's why I was telling her go forward, because I think she only has upside. Yeah. So, but your deal, I would pass on right now. Just tell them you found something else, because you might win at 55. I would think you probably would, but it's sad enough you could actually lose, even though it's a really awful offer, because people are really overpaying over there right now.
Okay. And one more question before we get off.
Sure. Yeah, man.
As far as that, the Burr method, right? So when you're trying to get top dollar from the bank, would I need to change that, as far as the layout, you know, how you go into the kitchen and like those row houses over there where they still have the wall over there? Will I still have to knock it out, or could I just save money on that and just keep the same layout and just update everything?
You're probably not going to get the 150. I mean, you know, honestly, on doing your street, you might only get 115 if you fix it all up completely, because they might. That's the variable you don't know. I'm not saying you couldn't get them to say 150, because it's possible. But there's also a pretty good chance they're going to actually look on the street and know enough to be like, nah, it's only 115, dude. And no, if you don't upgrade it to somewhat close to what the renovation is, then they'll call it like a B renovation, or like, and they definitely will look at different comps. They'll start looking for comps that are going to be much lower. Like they might use, like if you just did a basic cleanup on it for 10K, I don't know what condition it's in, they might use that 99 comp. You know what I mean? They won't use the like complete renovated comp. They might, or like there was a 311. So I mean, you don't know what they'll use is the thing. So it's a little bit of a guessing game. If you buy it right, then you never got to worry, like, because I think big part of like being really great at Burr is buying good deals. It's the same common denominator. If you want to be a wholesaler, you want to be a renovator, you want to be a landlord, like everyone's like, well, Mike, what do you know about that? I'm like, I know the most important part of it. And I know how to get deals that work for all three of those. Like when you buy the right deal, you can wholesale it. You buy the right deal, you can keep it as a rental. You can also rehab it and put money in your pocket. You have multiple exit strategies because you bought it correctly. When a deal only works for one thing, like rental, and doesn't work for wholesale or rehab, then it's not as good of a deal, and it's not something you want to build your business on. You might get away with it. You might have an opportunity to get someone to overpay. Good example, me and Delonte had an auction that we went to AJ Billick, and we made a pre-auction offer, and they accepted it and said, yeah, we'll give it to you for 100. And then they told us a 5K buyer's premium. So I was like, oh, that's 5K more than I was expecting. I was saying 100 with the buyer's premium. Like it would have to be 105. So I was like, okay, let me go look at it. I got out there and looked at it. The whole basement was filled to the ceiling with water. Like, you'd had to get scuba gear to go in the basement and look at it. Like legitimately, you'd have to be a scuba diver. It was like 6 foot tall water in the basement. So I was like, oh man, that's really going to make me more like 95. So I go back to them and I tell them 95, and they're like, nah, they're not going to do that. But I could have taken it at 105. So I go to the auction saying, maybe I'll get it at the auction, day of auction. I get there, there's 30 people out front. The freaking final bid was 137.5 plus buyer's premium of 10% or 5% on top of that. So they paid 145 for it. And me and Delonte were like, dude, we could have bought it for the 105 and then sold it to them. Right. But the problem is that I, in my heart, know that I would have to find a sucker to do that. And I don't want to buy a house and take a big risk of 10, 15K in my deposit and having a bad deal, hoping someone will, that I'll recreate magic. Like that was some magic that happened that day. That was magic. So I don't know. Maybe I can recreate it. Maybe I can't. I can tell you that I don't like running a business model where 1/3 of my deals lose money. I kind of like to stack the deck a little bit. I like one of the local wholesalers I bought a few deals off over the years, a guy named Anthony Polikoff, is a very big courthouse steps guy. He's one of the big players. And what he would do is he would overpay for everything because he knew he could find other people to overpay. Terry Royce does the same thing. They know they have buyers that'll overpay, so they're paying too much. But Anthony Polikoff just recently got sued like a year ago by a bunch of investors that he ripped off for millions and told them that the market economy was really bad, so he lost all their money. You know why he lost all their money? Because he was buying a bunch of deals for like 30K more than he should have. And then people just stopped overpaying for him for whatever reason. And he couldn't get people so he ended up stuck with a bunch of deals that he had to rehab for a loss. Just he had 25K deposits on, and he couldn't just give back or he'd lose 25K. Ended up being a train wreck. Terry also is a rehabber, but mostly only because he gets stuck with deals that he has to rehab just not to lose 20 or 30K on. So we don't want to do that. There's some things they do that'll make us have FOMO where we'll be like, holy crap, how did they get that for 110 and then sell it for 130 when the number was 95? And it makes me have FOMO, and it makes me second guess myself. But over the years, I've learned to not listen to that, because when I have, it's caused me to stop making money and kind of be in the same boat as them, where their business is super inconsistent and really dangerous. So yeah, man, we just got to grind it out until we get the right deal. So I think that you probably had most things right. That was a little bit tricky there, but I'm glad we looked at it. And if you want to look at some more in the future, let's look at them. And I just don't buy that one. I'm pretty confident on the numbers on that one.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. And I think most lenders would kind of see it the way I see it too. So if you're trying to get a money from a hard money lender or something, you might be in a little bit of a spot.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Cool. I feel like, hold on 1 second. All right. I'm just trying to figure. Scott, are you snoring? All right. That's it. That means the call is time to end when Scott starts snoring. I was pretty sure it was him too, because I muted him and it went away. Scott has been up, man. He's been probably working hard on his rehab. I don't know if it's Tessie. I don't even want to know. It could be. So before we go, any other quick questions before we go? If not, then I will see everyone on Thursday. I'll do my best. I don't know for a fact I'm going to be able to make Thursdays, but I think so. Actually, I should be able to make it. I'll make it happen because Delonte won't be here to do it. So because he actually has to go to LA for an audition or do something with the part he got. He has to go do some kind of table read or something. So he won't be here. We're getting ready to lose Delonte for a while. I don't know. He probably didn't tell you guys. He got a part on an HBO show. So he's like going to be gone for 5 weeks shooting the pilot. So pretty cool stuff.
Congratulations, Delonte. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's not on, but I'll tell him. And man, he's done lost got him losing weight, got him on a diet. He can't cut his hair because he's got to build out an afro. Because it's a show about back like Magic Johnson basketball show. So it looks pretty good, and he's really pumped because obviously if it catches on, he has a recurring role in it. So we might lose him totally, which would be awesome. We wouldn't lose Delonte for that. Obviously, it's his dream and what he's been kind of wanting to do for a long time. So I'm supporting him 100%. He's still got his job for a while until he gets back. He's got to pay some bills until they figure out if they're going to pick it up or not. But he's getting some really cool stuff, man. He's super happy right now. He's earned it too, man. He's put the work in. He's worked really hard with me for years trying to create opportunities like this so he could have the freedom to do this. And, it's been just like what this is all about.
There you go. Thanks, Mike.
Cool.